What we're seeing though in Australia is that the biggest effect that people can have is really getting the value of the data that's already in their systems and using AI workflows that are actually integrated into your existing system.
It's cognitive ERP, and it's moving from a system of record to a system of action, which kind of turns the tables on the traditional view of what your ERP can bring to your business.
I reckon in most cases, people are using probably 20 to 30% tops of what their system is already capable of. And so what I often say to clients is, I don't think you actually need any more software. You just need to use what you've got properly.
When it's done well, it doesn't feel like AI. It just feels like a much smoother operation, fewer surprises, accelerated decision making, and teams that are spending more of their time on the less repetitive stuff.
Welcome to Manufacturing Tech Australia with Shane Williams and Paul Mason, where they share the latest manufacturing and tech news and explore innovative solutions to help you improve your business.
Welcome to this episode of Manufacturing Tech Australia. Paul and I spend a lot of time on the show talking about how AI is the answer to things like staff shortages and shrinking margins. And while that's true, the conversation tends to then lead people to think that they need to go out and find some new shiny tool. And what we're sort of saying to folks is we want you to look closer to home first. The best ERPs are already baking AI into the stuff you're already running today. And case in point is our good friends today at Epicor who are joining us on the show. Epicor is the essential partner for manufacturers. They deliver industry-specific software built for the way that factories run and help teams to manage production, materials planning, scheduling, and supply chain with real-time visibility across the business. And so today we're joined by two representatives from Epicor who we're really enthusiastic about getting on the show to have a conversation about how do you leverage what you've already got and where does AI really play out in terms of value for manufacturers. So let's get them on the show.
Graeme and Ian, welcome to Manufacturing Tech Australia, guys, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Paul. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure.
Shane and I have talked a lot about AI on the podcast of late, and I think it's a bit hard not to at the moment in the manufacturing space. When it comes to AI and ERPs, I think it's one of the biggest benefits of AI, all the different integrations and different benefits we can get out of that. And I know Shane's written a couple of books on this topic, how to extract the most out of your ERP using different features and things like that. But there is a lot of hype out there in reality. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity to get you guys on the show and talk about where that hype lives in AI in manufacturing and specifically around ERPs. So maybe when we're talking sort of day-to-day operations, what should manufacturers be a bit skeptical about and what should they know or look out for when it comes to AI and ERPs in manufacturing?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Yeah, we agree. There's a lot of hype out there at the moment. Everybody's talking about AI and how they need to get it. What we're seeing though in Australia is that the biggest effect that people can have is really getting the value of the data that's already in their systems and using AI workflows that are actually integrated into your existing system or that are leveraging that data and build on the stuff that manufacturers are already relying on there. So using the functionality that's in existing systems around planning and scheduling and quality and giving visibility of supply chains, not really having AI as a standalone big, huge project. It's really leveraging what you can is what we're finding. Some examples of that might be things like solving practical problems around seeing late deliveries, optimizing scheduling. It's surfacing exceptions on the shop floor that you might not see otherwise. Things are going on and AI is just going to help surface that so that people can do it. And the other big one that I'm really keen on is really just reducing the amount of admin work. As a production engineer myself, I'm always on about doing things more effectively and efficiently. And that's what AI can bring, we think. It's really reducing the admin work, reducing that sort of busy work that people are doing and making things just more effective and more efficient.
I think that makes a lot of sense now that, people have had a year or so to use large language models and ChatGPT and all those kind of things. They can start to get their head around, I've got all this data there. How do I extract that value out of the data? So I think it's much easier to explain these types of things and then carry them across to, whether it's platform software, ERPs, production management systems, whatever. So I think it's becoming easier to get people to buy in and actually leverage this and get more value out of their systems now.
Absolutely.
I think to your point about being skeptical, if AI needs a department to manage, it needs a sign-off process, it needs a separate workflow, separate dashboard, then that's more on the hype end of the spectrum. Manufacturers want AI that supports team productivity, not that creates more work. So in a broader context, it's about the efficiency and output comes from adopting an AI mindset across the business. Teams are encouraged to embrace it and be educated on the potential of AI. It's a collaborator in your business, not an overhead.
Just on that side, on the security, because I know there's lots of businesses out there where maybe 20 different people are using different tools and Maybe they're even using their private accounts for, chat GPTs and Claude and things like that. So obviously security is a big issue. So I think having that, all integrated together and having it as a company-wide, whether it's policy or education and whatever, it sort of must be led that way, even just for the security side.
Exactly. When it's within the system, it's going to consider the security settings that are already there. So if you've got access to that data, AI can access that data. I can't just jump in and say, what is Paul's pay rate? Something like that. If you don't have access to that, then AI can't access that either. And the same goes with providing confidential data to the system. You're not just using a generally available commercial AI tool. You're using the AI that actually resides within your own contained, secure environment. So that information is not going to get used by anyone else. Other systems don't learn off that.
Yeah, I think the right guardrails need to be in place. There needs to be some good data governance and a clearer understanding within a business as to what it can or can't be used for, and what data can't be extracted or shared.
I think we've fallen into the trap of diving straight into what's going to go wrong and doom and gloom, but I think we're missing what is really a massive opportunity. I was at a AI conference recently, and we had an economist from Judo Bank just sort of explaining the size of the problem and some of the challenges macroeconomically that Australian businesses are leaning into. And I think that's really important to consider. There was this perspective on doom and gloom around AI is going to take jobs, AI is going to do all these things. And he was just saying, well, there's a challenge in the Australian market around not having enough humans, and the baby boomers are retiring. So we're going to have less people available to do the jobs that we need to get done. And so AI fills the gaps of the humans that we can't already get the roles for, rather than displacing the ones that we do. And so when we think about that, how is that going to really help at a big picture when someone's considering an AI tool, or whether they're considering whether they're going to use the AI in their ERP? And I think Ian mentioned it before, right? It's about that productivity gain. It's around putting the right tools in the right context to enable that. And I think, people are right to be skeptical about the hype, but, there's a massive opportunity here to start to think about, rather than, you were talking before, is it the chat GPT or these segmented systems, and saying, no, hang on, let's think about, rather than static systems, let's think about adaptive systems. Let's use the ERP, which is the system of record that already has the security in place around the data to unlock more productivity. I think for people listening, it's probably just trying to understand, how do we separate the signal from the noise when we're just being flooded with information now? It's not like there's a void of things that business owners and boards are trying to get their head around. It's now that there's so many things coming at me, where do I make the right decisions? And I feel like that's where the skepticism is coming in. But I think it's a massive opportunity for businesses to say, well, what are the tools that we already have? And if we already have the ERP, how are we leveraging tools like AI within that context?
Look, I totally agree. I was thinking last night, I'm old enough to remember when obviously the internet came in, and that was going to change everything. But even before that, when PCs came in, and people were saying at the time that, what are we going to do with all this leisure that we're going to get from all the work that's going to be taken off us? It just didn't happen. We didn't all find ourselves with extra leisure time. That was the expectation back then, that everyone's, invest in leisure industries because that's going to be the next big thing because of all the time that PCs and the internet has brought us. I just see AI as being another set of tools and ways to automate existing workflows, things like that. So it's not a dramatic change. It's really a series of things that are going to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the way you're doing things. Certainly nothing to be scared of. And when you were talking a bit there about employees being needed, what we're seeing more in Australia is that there's a shortage of staff, a shortage of good people. So if you can bring someone on, make them able to start being productive faster, AI is actually going to help the Australian industry, I think.
That's where AI within the right tool with the right context is super critical, right? And so I feel like historically we've treated, in manufacturing explicitly, we've treated ERPs and those types of systems as systems of record. Put the data in, this is what's happened, and then we use the what's happened to try and plan what's next. And I reckon the opportunity with AI is to switch that to say, these are now systems of decision support, not systems of record. Is that a fair perspective?
Systems of action, exactly.
That's part of what we talk about, right? It's cognitive ERP, and it's moving from a system of record to a system of action, which kind of turns the tables on the traditional view of what your ERP can bring to your business. That gets accelerated in decision making with the incorporation of AI.
Once you think about AI and its practical execution in that, enabling that, what does good look like? Could you kind of talk to me about, maybe it's use cases you've seen or whatever, but we'd love to sort of really get under, when you move away from a system of record, what does good look like?
Probably the simplest way of thinking about it is when it's done well, it doesn't feel like AI. It just feels like a much smoother operation, fewer surprises, accelerated decision makings, and teams that are spending more of their time on the less repetitive stuff and the higher value add. That's ultimately what this enables.
I think too, as I was saying, it's going to show up in sort of small, helpful ways. So if you're a planner, you're going to see things like a smarter sequence of optimizing your jobs production as it goes through. It's operators and production supervisors getting early notifications on things that they might not have otherwise noticed. Buyers getting notification if there's a ship stuck in the Gulf of Oman or something or other, stuck in the canal, and your deliveries on that ship are going to be late. So the system is continuously aware of these things and prompting you. Other ways that we're looking at AI at the moment, it's highlighting the most efficient job sequences and identifying bottlenecks. It's very good for things like that because you don't have to go hunting for these things. It can notify you. Things like resource constraints as well. The way that we're doing it as Epicor is that we're making sure that human always is in the loop, though, that the human is the one actually deciding. So AI is notifying you of things, suggesting things, but it's not taking over. It's actually leaving you to make that final decision. It's just surfacing the insights, you could say. But those things are then allowing you to do that a lot quicker. So what used to take hours would take minutes. Another big one, I guess, is around supply chain risk, where AI can analyze historical buying behavior with things like lead times and delivery. And then if something looks like it's going to be a problem, you get a notification before it's a problem for production, before they actually run out of stock, before the order is late for the customer and you don't meet a delivery deadline. So that's the sort of thing that we're looking at there. For machines, it's also things around taking in live feeds from vibration sensors, temperature sensors, meter readings that would otherwise just go into a big table of data and not get looked at. Whereas AI can be constantly monitoring that and prompting you and saying, oh, we've got a machine going out of spec there, do something before it becomes a problem, before you get things having to be scrapped.
Some of the things I've seen, we've had data analytics around for a while, right? So if you've got, some decent data in the background, you can do some analytics on that. And I think for me, some of the big wins now with AI is more around that unstructured data. So all the stuff, notes on the floor and, things that, capturing what's in operators' brains, not necessarily data in the system. And I love that whole structured and unstructured, being able to pull all that in, get insights out of that. I think that for me is sort of the biggest wins I'm seeing in the last few months. Is that something you guys are seeing as well?
I think we are. I mean, a good example of a powerful area that this can benefit businesses is in workforce enablement. So we've got, a number of our customers who are using the Epicor Learning Assistant, uses GenAI to streamline the onboarding and the day-to-day help that those new employees seek. So instead of digging through manuals or waiting on a supervisor to help them out, employees can ask the natural language question right inside the workflow and get, contextual guidance on the spot, which again is based on their own defined work instructions and procedures that the company has. So it dramatically reduces the time to productivity for staff, coming on board, and you get them productive quicker. They've got an understanding of the process, and it helps to reinforce the best practice that the business wants to deploy whilst continuing to evolve and look for areas where that can be optimized further. So it's a big win for manufacturers dealing with skills gaps, high turnover, but it's also a big win for employees, right? They want to work for, in this battle for talent, they want to work for organizations that are embracing technology, using modern practice. So that's an appeal. It becomes an attraction tool for organizations that are forward thinking. So again, AI and all of this is not, replacing decisions. It's about accelerating those decision points.
It's getting all the inputs from various different sources into one form that can help you sort of guide along that decision-making process, whereas before you may have just had some historical data in your ERP that you use to advise, your next purchasing planning and that kind of thing. Whereas now you're looking at seasonal data, you can get all sorts of inputs off the net, inputs from people, experience from all sorts of different, use all those different levers to make the right decisions and maybe, 80, 90% more informed than previously.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's there, it's analysed, it's enriched. No longer do you have the risk that an employee walks out the door with the secret sauce in their brain. Right, this becomes organisational knowledge that helps you as a business to improve and propel.
In terms of people in the factory surfacing the information that they're needing to find. So you might have work instructions, quality procedures, things like that are written. Everyone knows what it's like when you've got ISO 9001. certification. There's a heap of information that are in quality manuals that, back when I was a production engineer would be sitting in the supervisor's office. What we're finding though with AI is that it actually ingests all of that information, and then someone can use a natural language model to just ask it a question. What's the process for when I need to quarantine an item? And it's then going to actually use all of that information, all of your quality procedures, and give you a nice simple answer based on that. And we think that is a real way that can improve quality and take what might have been tribal knowledge and just make it easy for people to find.
I think about that and the practicalities in that if you ask 3 different people in 3 different parts of the business how the process works, you get 3 different answers. And oftentimes the SOP that's written by one team has contradictory data points or explanations of a process elsewhere. It almost feels like for that to work well, for the AI to be able to distinguish between what is the correct process versus what is the conflicting one, there's an amount of work that needs to happen to enable that.
Absolutely. The term GPT comes from, isn't generative pre-trained. So it has to be given information, whether that is ERP data, whether that is documents, training manuals and things like that. But then it's going to use that, and also past history and so forth will come into it as well.
So I guess we've spoken a little bit about some use case application areas and what good looks like. Let's look at the other side of the coin. What are some of the common mistakes that manufacturers make when they're looking to implement AI or looking to implement an ERP with AI built in? What are some of those stumbling blocks and things that pull them up? Is it poor data? Is it training? Is it the right culture in the business to adopt that change? What are some of the key things where things can go, I guess, badly wrong?
I think that leads in really well from what we were just talking about, actually, that in order for any AI tools to actually be able to make sensible suggestions and surface information, your fundamentals have to be really strong. So we normally recommend that the first thing you have a look at is just your fundamental data in your ERP system. Getting the core system data correct is really the main thing that we have to look at before you jump into a big AI project. And also, don't think that you've got to put in a whole of business AI program which is going to come in and magically improve everything for the business. It's really about what can you do right now? Where can you start making some small changes? Think of it, as I was saying before, as it's not a separate tool, but something that's embedded into your current processes and procedures.
Rather than elaborating or calling out areas where it's gone wrong, I think what we would tend to advocate and let organisations appreciate is that AI adoption works best when the frontline teams trust it. Right? So we talk about a leading with an AI mindset in a business, getting those teams to trust it and getting them on board with the value that it brings. Right? That comes from transparency. It comes from giving people the usable insights that they can derive, and not just a set of barked instructions that are coming at them. So the goal isn't replacing people here, it's empowering them. It's about getting the best results that come when AI acts as a co-pilot for your decision making, right? We talked about it as a collaborator. Consider it as a brainstorming partner again in the wider context. More broadly, people can see how AI adoption, if it helps them with their job, with their career, even their personal life, they're more trusting, they're more engaged to be able to adopt and take that on. So it does need, and within our business, we're trying to drive this, a culture for development of staff that not only gives the productivity and the efficiency gains, but employees, going back to the battle for talent, employees get growth through learning. And even, in an extreme case, AI can be used as a sense of well-being for employees, right? There are tools there that can help you assess the signs of stress based on tone of emails, right? It can be used for more equitable workload balancing between teams. And it also, importantly, can be used as a way of performance indicators. It can help you identify what particular staff are good at, right? What they have a real talent for or an aptitude for, and help to route and schedule work that is within their wheelhouse, within their core interests and capability. So, as I said earlier, employees want to be with organisations that have those characteristics and values as an employer, right? Trying to drive growth, trying to drive efficiency, but helping you develop and grow your own career.
Graeme, you touched on an important point back there. I think we might have glossed over a little bit, but you spoke about trust and building trust in the organisation to use some of these tools. And I think that's important because in the front office, with all the data and the advice that you're getting from AI-based systems out of, recommendations and, what you should do next, there's a lot of fear around if this thing's making the decisions in no time, And I just have to say yes or no. How long am I going to be here for? But I think equally on the shop floor, there's guys out there going, what does the AI know about my job? I've been doing this for 20 or 30 years. What can it really tell me in my day-to-day job to build that trust? What are some of the things that you can do to build that trust in both sides of the business?
Great question, and not necessarily an easy answer, but I think being transparent with stuff. There may be businesses that see opportunities to clean the cost base because they've been hiring or overhiring for a period of time and they've been inefficient for too long. I think the organisations that understand the objectives of what AI can deliver to them as well as to their staff are going to build a tribe that is supportive and embracing that change and using it to good advantage. It kind of comes down to leadership within the business and how transparent they are and how they talk about the objectives that they have for AI in their business, but also the mentality for the employees, right? If you just want to hold on to how it's always been done, then that's never been a great strategy for growth. So I think you're looking to attract employees who are part of the journey.
And also, I guess I'd add to that people are going to expect that more these days. My young nieces and nephews will just automatically be asking AI how to do stuff. It's like it was always there to them. If they're coming into a business, they will expect that in the systems that they're going to be using to do their job. If they can't do that, it's going to be very frustrating and disillusioning, and it is harder to hold on to staff, particularly younger staff, when you don't have those sort of systems.
If you think about what we're talking about is that frontline buy-in and the trust and things that need to happen alongside that to achieve that trust. If you peel that back, what happens prior to that, it's the things we talked about before, which is your data right? Are your processes right? If that's not ready, then the AI might give bad advice. But then you peel it back to the biggest challenge there is where do you get started? If you've got to spend a whole bunch of time reinvesting and making sure your processes are right and reinvesting that your data's right, you could almost end up paralyzed from being able to move forward. It's that tension in both directions. Need to move faster, but equally you can't have a flaky foundation. Are you guys seeing that? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the main thing there is don't think that you've got to do everything at once. Like I said before, don't think that it's a big magic project that's going to come in and you have to do all your groundwork and have everything perfect before you start thinking about it. You can start with simple things, is what I recommend there. Use cases that they're going to bring you value based on the data you've already got around scheduling and AP invoice payments, predicting shortages, things like that. They don't require big data, things like that. Obviously, you get more insights once you do have your data correct, and the predictions that it's going to give you are going to be better and more reliable, but that's always been the way. Things like MRP has been around for forever. I did that at university 30 years ago, MRP2. That has always relied on having all of your underlying data correct, all your lead times, all of your prices, etc., etc., etc. That's got to be right. But you can still use it without everything being perfect. It just needs more human in the loop intervention to actually ensure that the suggestions you're getting are correct.
Yeah, and look for something possibly even small that, would help with the daily friction in operations, that would deliver a quick win, build confidence, gives you and the team the momentum to continue to grow and add to that, right? Take data and workflows you already have and use the embedded AI that exists and see the value, let the team see the value. Those things will help build momentum and dissipate some of the negativity.
I talked to clients recently and said, you know what, there's this argument for all of our data needs to be perfect because that's the only way that AI is going to predict and be able to give us good advice, right? True, it does do pattern matching and it needs to be able to do that. But equally, we don't currently operate with perfect information and we're still able to find the pattern and make some conclusions and move forward. And so the AI is going to deal with the same imperfect information and probably make the same imperfect decisions that we might make, rather than relying on the AI to do a better job than you. I think it's about trying to strike a balance between getting your systems and processes and data good enough to start the learning journey and surface enough information that you can create that as a continual loop. Does that resonate for you?
100% agree. Yeah, I think that the human's always going to be the loop there to assess the suggestions. You hear the term all the time about AI hallucinations. That's just, it's looking at bad data, really, or it's made some assumptions that are not right. But humans are very good at taking all those multiple inputs and eliminating the dross and the noise and coming down with a final decision. So I think that's not going to go away.
Yeah, I think you also got to retain control, right? You got to know what you're trying to achieve, what your objectives are, and then you're utilizing AI to help you get there, right? It's not in the driving seat. It is that collaborator, that partner that you can use, but you set the strategy, right? You can validate, test, check, consider alternatives, but Ultimately the direction of the company is set by the humans who are running the company, and then they're utilising AI as an increasingly productive support cast.
Things start small. So everyone can start using the AI that they have and that they've got access to right now. Perfect examples of that is just the stuff that Microsoft's bringing out. We all know it's not perfect. You've got Copilot and Outlook. You can start using that for triaging emails and things. You've got Teams. We all see now if you're in a Teams meeting, it's doing summaries, and you can do catch-ups. If you jump on a meeting, it'll tell you what you've missed, that sort of thing. SharePoint by itself is going to give you the ability to ask natural language questions, and it assesses the data that you've put in the different folders and gives you answers based on that. And these are things that people have got right now that you can start on instantly, and it's not going to take you any effort, and you don't have to do any data cleanup.
That's a good segue into a bit of a side question I had, Ian, and that's earlier in the chat I mentioned about, people haven't really unlocked the full potential of their ERPs, right? They've got their basics, purchasing and planning and all these kind of things and inventory management, but there's all these, extra things they could be unlocking. So I guess from a practical sense, if I'm a manufacturer out there and I'm like, wow, didn't even know I've got AI in my ERP, or how do I turn that on? How does that work? Is it, having a chat with the vendors? Is it kind of a continuous improvement kind of thing? Do you unlock bit by bit? What does that look like practically?
Good question. Yeah, so the way it typically works is a series of agents that ERPs, ourselves and others, gradually releasing out into their ERP systems. So yes, you can start to make use of them as they become available. Certainly have a chat to your ERP vendor, see what's there, get them to give you a recap on that if you don't know. But you can then start with the highest value stream ones for you.
That could be, maybe it's automating some processes that were fairly manual before. It could be automating, checking purchase orders or stock arrived, those kind of things. Some of the basics that would really add sort of immediate value. So I guess it's, business by business, yeah.
Exactly. So it's the things a lot of systems have had within them for years. It's more advanced versions of MRP and scheduling. In a way, MRP, with its advanced scheduling, really, it's AI. Advanced forecasting, where it's analysing your different spending patterns and finding the best model of fit and stuff like that. That's really AI. You can start doing these immediately.
I think, come back to the AI mindset, or leading with the AI mindset, help encourage your teams to build those habits, right? Ask them to utilise AI for potentially drafting reports or summarising customer requirements or preparing for a supplier meeting. Those are small efficiencies and they add up.
We start where we should always have started even before the whole AI thing came around, right? Which is, don't start with the technology, start with the problem. Like, what is the real operational thing that we're trying to solve for? Is it a late delivery or is it stockouts? And if that's the case, then what tools are available to us? And hey, guess what? Epicor's just popped up a new agent and I can ask a plain language question. Happy days. Like, that's going to help me solve a real problem in the business and build that confidence in the tools and start to deliver value almost straight away, right?
Yeah. And of course, events like Australian Manufacturing Week, right, which we have coming up, they're a fantastic way to explore what's real in the market, not just a hype. Back to the first question, you can really see this in tangible examples. So you can come to the Manufacturing Week in Brisbane. It's always easy to find us. We'll be showcasing our AI and how it's showing up on the shop floor in really tangible ways. Plenty to explore in solutions beyond ERP as well at that event.
Yeah, I agree with Shane there too, that identify the use cases, what problems you're looking to solve, and then start to think about how you incorporate AI into those specific workflows, specific functions, just to improve, make it more effective, more efficient.
Nothing better than go look see, Graeme. So I'm glad you threw that in. Australian Manufacturing Week up in Brizzy. Shane and I will be up there as well, running around the floor, trying to capture all the latest in tech and news. So definitely for listeners out there, get along. It's always much better to go and see and, listen in.
I'd like to throw something else at you. I reckon in terms of where to get started, practical advice for people listening, in my experience anyway, and I'm sure you guys have been around this ecosystem as long as I have, I reckon in most cases, people are using probably 20 to 30% tops of what their system is already capable of. And so what I often say to clients is, I don't think you actually need any more software. You just need to use what you've got properly. And to your point, now that you've got these new capabilities happening or appearing within the platforms that you're already using, it almost feels like go back to basics, talk to your partner and say, how do we get more out of what we've already got? That might actually just unlock value without having a massive investment, right?
I totally agree. It's my job to go around and talk to new Epicor customers and prospects and walk the factory floor. I've been around 300 or 400 factories in my time. And the thing that I always see is that there's always improvements people can make and they probably just haven't thought about it and they don't know it. Things like, why aren't you using the data you've got in MRP right now? Oh, we don't trust our data. The data's wrong. So MRP is coming up with wrong suggestions. Why is the data wrong? Because we're not actually controlling our receipts properly. Why aren't you doing that? You're not using the functionality in your system that you've got right now properly, and it's just got all these flow-on effects, which then mean you can't, or you stop trusting the systems that you've got. I 100% agree, Shane. There is a lot of functionality that people can start using now, but it comes thinking about their methods, their processes and procedures, and how they can improve that. I think that's the place to start normally.
Sounds like a great question for AI, right? What capability in my software am I not currently using today?
Been around, I would guessing, clients who have started on this journey and are starting to get some benefit. What's the smallest use case you've seen AI used for that's given the biggest ROI?
It's certainly things like invoice matching, where you've got all of your incoming invoices being automatically assessed and read with OCR. That's AI. It's been around for a couple of years, but it's still AI. That's got a huge use case where I've seen whole departments of people be freed up to do other work because of that functionality.
I think to that, the assessment of, right supplier, right product, right time, and how AI can assess not only, geographical factors, historical quality inputs, predictive delivery time or past performance. It's really efficient in helping shore up sourcing issues or where you need to expedite materials due to a particular situation. So that has gotten a lot of traction and delivered benefit to customers and really allowed them to narrow.
The other one there is predictive analytics around data, where you do begin to see patterns. Before a machine breaks down, you'll see that the vibration sensor is going out more or something like that, and you've got your different analytics that can do that. Now, sure, you can go and run your Six Sigma analysis and all that sort of stuff that's been around forever, but you want something that's actually going to do that proactively, that the human doesn't have to think about, that will just warn you. And again, that can mean a whole production line doesn't go down if you've got that there.
The discussion today, it's really around how do you identify use cases that make sense, bring your people on the journey so that they trust the systems, leverage what you've got, and really look for the easiest possible path to delivering value so that people start to come on that journey. But I know I've probably missed a couple of key points. So what else you got?
Yeah, look, a simple one to close, and we've discussed this as we've gone through, but really I think that as we've seen, Australian manufacturers don't really need more software to start making use of AI. They really just need tech that works the way their factory works, as part of their business workflows, hopefully as part of their existing business systems.
AI shouldn't complicate the decisions or the decision-making process. It should simplify them, right, and help accelerate them. So the takeaway is that the future of manufacturing AI is data-driven, but it's still led by humans.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've covered everything from mistakes that people make, some practical advice to get started. What are those use cases around using AI in your manufacturing business, whether that's in the front office or out on the factory floor? So thanks heaps for coming on the show, guys. So all our listeners out there, get up to AMW 26 in Brizzy in May. Catch the guys up there, Graeme and Ian. Shane and I will be up there as well. So we're looking forward to catch up at the show.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Shane, Paul.
Thank you. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks again for listening to today's episode, and thanks to Epicor for supporting it. If you want to learn more about how modern industry-specific ERP helps manufacturers gain clearer visibility and drive performance, visit epicor.com. And if you want to reach out to Graeme and Ian's teams, just check the show notes.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Tech Australia with Shane and Paul, recorded on the traditional lands of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people. For more information, jump on the manufacturingtech.au website. Remember to hit the follow button to join us again next time as we continue to explore the intersection of manufacturing and technology.